Eyes on Pittsburgh as the NFL flocks to that city for the draft. But the talk of the town as the Steelers' voluntary minicamp starts today is still if and when Aaron Rodgers will make a decision on playing or not. Cam Hayward was with our buddy Rich Eisen last week and gave this recruiting pitch to bring the quarterback back.
I don't want to say the same thing. He's worn the black and gold. Just return, baby. That's all we need. I think he had a fun time being a part of this crew, and we really enjoyed his company, but I'd like to be able to, run it back with him.
So we thought that we would know. I think the conventional wisdom was Rodgers is going to let them know much earlier this time than he let them know last year. And here we are. It's Monday. The draft is Thursday.
Did you really believe that this was not going to have any drama to it at all?
I'm a sucker. I believed it. So, I mean, what?
I mean, they're waiting. And look, in the meantime, they can get the offseason reps they need to get for Will Howard, who they want to take a look at. He, at this point, is probably their plan B. We'll see what they do in the draft, but I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the first round. If they take one, it's probably in the middle rounds just to add to the mix. So they'll continue to wait.
Dan has made no secret of the fact that you are a believer in Ty Simpson, and you are by no means the only one. In fact, most of the quarterbacks I've talked to who are draft analysts or analyzing the players like Ty Simpson a lot. You see the pro traits in him.
Yeah.
The expectation is that he'll be on the board at 21. If Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed or hasn't given them an indication that he's coming back, do you think they should take Ty Simpson at 21?
I do, and I've warmed to that. I believe that Aaron's going to play for the Steelers this year, but indifferent of that, at some point we've got to address the quarterback position. Ty Simpson's a first-round quarterback. If the NFL isn't viewing Ty Simpson as a first-round quarterback, we're evaluating the quarterback position incorrectly. Accuracy and decision-making, it's all over his tape. That's what I'll say about that. Now, the Steelers, they got to get younger. They're old and slow, and so I understand interior offensive line safety is a need. But for all the teams, and this is a little bit of the Ty Simpson, but also reality. For all you teams that are sitting there saying, I'm going to look towards the 2027 NFL draft, the two things I would say, because the quarterbacks. One, there's like 6 to 8 great quarterbacks in the NFL right now. You think there's 5 coming out in the draft next year?
If that.
There's not.
That would be something.
Okay? 2, for all you teams that are like, I'll wait till 27, I could roll off 6 teams right now that are probably going to need a starting quarterback next year. The Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Atlanta Falcons, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins
and
potentially.
More, yeah.
There's 8 or 9. So unless you have the first or second pick, good luck. And so, I think that Pittsburgh at some point has to address that position. Ty Simpson absolutely would be on the conversation.
And I think the crazy thing, we started just talking about Rodgers, but for the Steelers, if you like Ty Simpson and you're saying he's potentially there at 21 and it makes sense, whether Rodgers comes back or not, like that pick would benefit them. They're still going to need a quarterback in the future. Why not go and get a guy that you believe in that can be the future and give him a year to be there underneath Aaron Rodgers? We saw him with Zach Wilson, and you don't have to call him a mentor or whatever, but they had a good relationship there. So if you like Ty Simpson that much, you can draft him at 21 and still have Rodgers come back.
And also with Rodgers, more than likely next year, you're going to be selecting right around 21.
Right.
There's just not going to be a great quarterback or a good quarterback more than likely.
No, I think it's a mandate. The Steelers select 21 every year. That's the pick that they have in the draft literally every single year. And I just a huge word of caution to underline what you just said. Do you know which draft everyone talked about as being the one that was going to be filled with quarterbacks?
Yeah, 26.
This one.
Yeah.
This was the draft everyone was pointing to because of Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck and Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier. This was going to be the year. So these things don't always pan out. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
We all know that Fernando Mendoza is going to go 1 and Ty Simpson's going to go somewhere. Late first, early second. When does the league expect the next quarterback to go?
Oh, after Simpson?
Yeah, after Simpson.
It could be till Saturday, honestly. I mean, somebody might take one in the 3rd round, but it seems like those guys, when you talk about, the Carson Beck, Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier group, that's probably, 3rd round maybe, but also maybe 4th or 5th.
So my question for you, Dan, is of those 3,
right?
And I've had Mel on one side and Field Yates on the other
Garrett
all
Nussmeier.
season long. You like Nussmeier?
Yeah, I like Nussmeier. Carson Beck from Miami has obviously played a ton of football. I'd like them to be a little bit more aggressive. Nussmeier is probably overly aggressive. He certainly was this year. It felt like there was this gunslinging mentality of I want to hit the home run every single throw. He dealt with injuries this past year. That showed up on tape. If you watched his 2024 tape, you would probably have a much different vantage point of him as a player. His 2024 tape, you can make the case, is first-round quarterback caliber tape.
Yeah.
It fell off this year.
And just to bring this back around, this is the kind of group that the Steelers have had into their facility, have talked to this offseason. I could see the Steelers taking a guy like this in one of the middle rounds, much the same way they took Will Howard in the 6th last year.
And a guy like Drew Aller to me is just intriguing because you look at what he's done in college, and there's some things where you see some of the attributes he has, and there's an expectation that hasn't been reached. But when you're talking about those later rounds, is there a guy like Drew Aller that you say, you know what, big arm, big guy, can make all of the throws? Let's see if we can develop him and see what he can potentially become later on down the line.
And that's the knock you hear on Ty Simpson is he doesn't have that killer trait, right? He's 6'1".
Yeah.
I wish I was 6'1", but he's not an NFL quarterback, right?
You don't have to do what he's asked to do.
Right.
So it works out.
He's not a super, athlete. So that's the thing. How good is he already? Is as good as he's going to be?
Maybe that's why we miss on quarterback so much.
Maybe.
If they built a quarterback in a lab, it would look just like Drew Aller. Unfortunately, when you put him on the field, it just hasn't looked anything like what the expectations have been. Coming up, back to the power of love. Get up, the draft is 3 days away. Dan Graziano has been feverishly working the phones, and so let's do some Grazianos. Dan, how does the Dexter Lawrence trade impact the way the Dallas Cowboys might handle this year's draft?
Interesting, because the Cowboys had been growing concerned that their list of defensive players they might want to take at 12 might not make it to them. The Bengals were sure to take a defensive player at 10. I don't know that the Giants are, so that may free up somebody or at least help somebody get a little bit closer to the Cowboys where if they trade up for, let's say, a Sonny Styles or a Caleb Downs, it might not have to involve both of their first-round picks.
That's an interesting one to me. The spot to trade up to, you'd figure is 5. Hard to picture the Giants trading inside the division. So then that looks at 4 with the Titans or 6 with the Browns. 4 is a long way to go all the way up. So maybe 6 with the Browns.
Yeah, and the Browns are always open for business. I mean, they're analytics driven and they'll assess, the value of the pick and how best to use it. So I think, I think Arizona would trade down from 3. I think Tennessee would trade down from 4. I think the Giants would trade down from 5, and I think that the Browns would trade down from 6. So if you want to get up in that top 6, you can. The question is the price.
Who's the defensive player? You've been talking all morning long about Jordan Tyson, how much you love him, the wide receiver from Arizona State. Who's the defensive player who you think in this draft is going to be the biggest difference-making player? Who's the one you love?
Arvell Reese would be number 1. I would also, from an offensive perspective, say Caleb Downs.
Yes.
I just think having the ability to have somebody at that nickel position, that star position that can literally do everything is a mandate in the NFL now. I came into the NFL in kind of the early 2000s. Antoine Winfield was that guy that you could play him, you could blitz him, he could defend the run, he could defend the pass, he could basically do everything. I know it's not that flashy, sexy, trendy position, but I think it's a necessity for good defenses nowadays. If you think Nick Emanwari last year for Seattle, kind of that style of player. He may not be the wow, but I think he's a tremendous football player, and he's probably the best tackler in the draft.
Can't say enough good things about Caleb Downs, and a lot of it has to do with where he's coming from. Playing for Ohio State with Matt Patricia, their defensive coordinator, who was an NFL defensive coordinator for so many years. He asked him to do so much within their defense. So when you talk about the E-Man Warriors or the Derwin James, a little bit different of those guys.
Because he's not physically them?
Yes, and he can play in the deep part. He can be your center fielder if you're playing that type of defense. He can also move up and do so many things. When you watch the film on him, the one thing you walk away, you say, this is one of the smartest players on the football field because of everything that they're asking him to do, and that translates well into the NFL.
Yeah. There were 3 Ohio State defensive players who may very well go in the top 7 picks of this draft. We will see. All right, more Grazianos. What should we be thinking about with Kansas City sitting at number 9?
I think Kansas City is a candidate for a trade up. I think if you're talking about the Cardinals wanting to trade down from 3, Kansas City's a team to watch. They want to address offensive line at some point this draft. That may be a little early to do it. But the edge rusher, I think, is one to watch for Kansas City. So depending on who the Jets take at 2, and we think it'll be either David Bailey or Arvell Reese, if the one they don't take is Kansas City's guy that they have to have, I think they get aggressive and start talking about going up to maybe 3 or 4.
If they sit at 9 and want a pass rusher, one would assume Reuben Bain from Miami will be there. But if, let's just say, Arvell Reese was the guy that you